Good evening, everyone. Welcome to another edition of On the Ice. I'm your host, Andrew Greenall. Theo is away at the moment. Still filling in for him. Today on the show, we have Darcy Hodge. He's the GM of the International Hockey Academy based out of Calgary, Alberta. They have two male teams that are currently playing in the CSSHL, the Canadian Sports School Hockey League. Today, we're going to sit down with him and discuss what's been happening, what's coming up, what's in the future for IHA, and just share with you a little bit of their website as well. And we're going to ask Darcy some of those hard questions like, what has he been doing other than sitting around watching Netflix? Because as we all have been since COVID, we've all been sitting around watching Netflix, unless you have Prime, maybe even watching Prime, or maybe even watching amateur sports TV. Anyhow, let's sit down with Darcy now and find out what's been happening at IHA. Hey, Darcy, thanks for joining us today on the Ice. How's it going?
It's doing well, Andrew. Thanks for having me on.
Oh, you're welcome, buddy. It's great to see you again. And you've got a little scruffy since I've seen you last.
Yeah, the post-Christmas.
Post-Christmas. I'm
in heavy training at the moment, so I'm trying to get my playoff beard ready.
Attaboy. Hey, with the NHL season coming up here, January 13th, you're a little early on that, but hey, it's all good.
It takes me a while. I have to start growing it early.
How was Christmas? How is the family?
Christmas was very good. Family is really well. Yep, we were unfortunately not able to travel like we normally do to see all the grandparents and stuff. But we were fortunate enough to have our immediate family together, and it was good.
It's good to hear, Darce. So, Darce, IHA, it's in your blood. You guys have been around for about 18 years. I think you've been there for 4 years, 5 years.
A little bit. I've been working with them for 5. Prior to that, my youngest son was actually a member of the last year they were Sizek.
Oh, nice.
The player. So I was an academy dad with the IHA group before I ever came on board as an employee of theirs.
And you've moved up in the ranks. You've gone from coach, head coach, to now general manager. How does that feel?
It's good. It doesn't come without its trials and tribulations, dealing with parents, dealing with players, the recruiting side. A lot of it is kind of on the same level. Even when I was just being one of the coaches, I was still maintaining a bunch of these opportunities to help out with IHA and help grow the program. But it's a little more on the regulation side now, a little bit more dealing with Hockey Alberta, Hockey Canada, things like that. So
do you miss coaching, Darcy?
I do and I don't. I am fortunate that I do get to jump on the ice with the kids kind of at my leisure now. And I get to go out there and be the clown of the coaching staff. I get to, shoot pucks at the goalies when they're not paying attention, and, trick kids when they're not paying attention, and just be one that disrupts practices. So sometimes I'm welcomed by the coaches. Sometimes I'm not allowed on the ice, but yeah, it's fun now. It's definitely a little more of a, I don't get near as stressed now watching win, lose, or draw as opposed to what I used to. So it's good.
That's good. Good to hear. So, Darcy, as most programs within the CSSHL, you guys typically run from, late August. The kids start arriving. You guys are on the ice throughout the season, and then everybody heads home. Late July, graduating, etc. Let's talk about the program. Without talking about COVID. So what would a typical player at IHA be looking at if they were to look at your program?
Well, if what we're finding now is there's very, very few players in Western Canada and now streaming across Canada with our addition of Ontario, Quebec, and the Maritime League teams that aren't familiar with the Canadian Sports School Hockey League. A lot of them come to me and they're saying, well, this program offers this and this program offers that. So a lot of research is being done on our league and on the individual programs, which is great. It gives them an educated decision-making process as opposed to basically just being a sales pitch from somebody trying to get their kids to come in and invest in their children. With us, I think some of the things that set us apart is we're basically a one-roof system. There's very few programs that are running everything under one roof. We are. Under our roof, we have dryland, the opportunity for the dryland training in one of the best gyms and that our Olympics use, our Canadian Olympic teams use our facilities, things like that. A lot of pro athletes are using our facilities. So we do have the dryland training component there at our beck and call for using it. We have 4 sheets of ice. We have our school system, which is a Calgary Board of Education school system, right there in the same facility. So in the end, our dressing rooms, everything, our storage cages. When you come to IHA at 7:30 in the morning, 8 in the morning, you don't travel around until it's home time at 4:30.
Would
And
you say that that's an advantage, Darcy, of having the all-encompassing? I've lost my train. The all-encompassing everything in one roof, like the school, the gym, the ice. Do you think that's a benefit to IHA?
I believe it is, because what it does is it shortens your day, as opposed to running it into 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock, going from here to here to here to here. The other thing it does is it does ensure that you are looking at a full day of school. I mean, in the end, as much as everybody comes to us for hockey, they're coming to us as well for the schooling, because as we all know, hockey ends, right? At some point in life, hockey will end. It could be at 14, 18, 22, maybe a pro career. You might make it till 30, 35, 40. But at some point in time, hockey ends, and then you have to go back on your education. So we try to make it very clear to every single person that comes in to the IHA program, and I'm hoping that everybody in our CSSHL is echoing the same sentiments, but we're raising student athletes, not athletic students.
Yeah.
Got to understand that. So there are some programs that spend a little bit more time on the ice and training, or doing a little bit more dry land, or doing some more skill work off of ice, but then they're finding out that their school is quite light, where they might only be doing 2 hours, maybe 2.5 hours, and then they have to go home and spend a lot of time at home doing additional schoolwork.
So here, Darcy, we're looking at the training facility now, part of your off-ice program. Did you briefly just want to hit and touch on what some of the athletes would encounter during an off-ice program?
Yeah, we run 2 to 3 different types of programs. When we get into the gyms with the WinSport trainers, these are trainers that have and do work with other hockey clientele, other high-end athletes, other Olympians, other professional athletes. We got Major League Baseball players that work out here in the wintertime. We got professional football players. Obviously, we have a lot of the National Hockey League players that work out there. So at any given time, when our kids are in that facility, they could be working out alongside a potential Cy Young candidate, or they could be working out against beside a CFL All-Star quarterback kind of a thing. So what we really like about the training system that we have there is that the kids see other athletes from other sports and what it takes. The kids go to a school called the National Sports School, which is a smaller high school. It's only like 200 kids from grade 9 to 12, and everybody in that school is an athlete. Could be an equestrian rider, could be a luge or a bobsledder, or it could be a skier, it could be a baseball player. And to see how other young athletes work out and train and put in the time and effort is also a benefit that our kids can see. This year we have partnered with Chad Shield from Stride Athletics to come in and maintain our dryland training and keep the kids on pace and hold the kids to task. Even when we shut down on the last one, he made sure to send out the recurring 8-week training regime in which our coaches are following up with weekly. Chad actually followed up with all the kids about every 2 to 3 weeks to make sure that everybody's just maintaining exactly what they're doing, because just because we're taking a little time off doesn't mean we're taking time off.
Good point. Talking about time off, we have to break here for a commercial break because unlike you, I don't make a lot of money.
Well, we're in the same boat. Remember, we're all in this together.
Yeah, that's true. Darcy, stick with us. We'll be right back after this commercial break. Welcome back, everyone. I still got Darcy laughing there. Darcy, just before we went to the commercial break, we were talking about just the main facilities, and we briefly touched on the school facilities. Let's share with our audience, because school is very important, as we all know, as you brought up. You have an older son as well that's gone through the steps. School is an important thing. As a parent myself, I'd be looking at what is being offered for the school advantage as well. Could you maybe just let our viewers know, and I do know that there are some changes coming, but let's talk about the current situation with IHA, what the school is like, what it's offering, if you could please, and what advantages a student athlete has attending IHA.
The nice thing about being at Winsport and working with the National Sports School is that all of their teachers, instructors they're geared towards the athlete. We found out last year when we were pre-COVID and we were having a full season and all of our travel and playing our 50, 55 games and traveling across North America, that we were the least absent group of athletes in the National Sports School.
Wow.
Exactly. Shocking to a lot of people. It's like, oh my God, you guys are traveling all the time. We do, but we were the least absent. When you look at some of our equestrian riders that are in that school, when they go on their Southern U.S. tour, they're gone for like 2 months. When you talk about our bobsledders or our lugers or our skeletons, they go over to Europe. They're gone for 3 to 4 months. So the school is really designed for the high-performance athlete to allow them to travel and still do school. So even though, we locked down and everybody was really up in arms about, oh my God, how do we do this online? Our athletes were going, it doesn't really change anything. We just jump online, we do our work, we still have access to all of our teachers and counselors as much as we need them or don't need them. Tutors are obviously really busy right now, and that's good. We have a list of tutors that help out our kids if the kids need it. And so what we do with our guys is we work very closely with NSS to the point where I send them my weekly practice schedule and I send them my yearly game schedule. And when things change, I let the principal know, who then in turn lets all of the teachers know that, hey, we're doing pictures today, so I need everybody out 15 minutes early. So teachers know that they can leave. Of course, you have your 15, 16-year-old boys that are saying, for a practice going, oh, I got to leave now. And the teacher goes, no, you don't. Here's Darcy's email. And it clearly says you don't leave before this time. They're like, oh, that's not enough time. It is enough time. They're just, hey, 15, 16, they're always trying to bend rules, right? Yeah. Is what it is. But that's the kind of relationship we have there. The other part is that I am having interaction with the principals, with the counselors, with the teachers on a weekly basis when we are there. We meet for coffee in the common area. I'll just pop into school. Every once in a while, I may get called into the principal's office to hear the story. It's not even me this time, though. That's my point. But it is something that we are very in touch with our school. It's not like we're sending our kids to a public school where we have no say what's going on. We are very in tune with how these kids are operating. And you think there's 200 kids in that school, and 40 of them are IHA hockey players. So we have a significant percentage of kids in that program.
So definitely an advantage to IHA being able to schedule around the athletes' schedule.
Yeah.
One question that comes to mind, is this school able to offer such subjects that maybe a grade 12 student needs to get into college or university, like a pre-chem course, a pre-biology course, maybe even home economics? I'm not are they able to offer those type of options as well?
Very few options. We do our core curriculum to the 30-1 standards. Across the board, they do the physics, the biology, the chemistry, the math, the sciences, the socials, and then there are minimal amounts of secondary languages. They will support, like if you're doing another line-on course, like if you're going to do a Spanish or something, they will work with you. They will find you the time and space to put that course in on a spare type scenario. They also, one thing NSS does do is they do offer SAT prep courses.
Mm-hmm.
So for kids that are thinking about moving on into an NCAA scenario, most programs have to go out and try and find, they have to go out and try to find an SAT prep course. NSS does offer the SAT prep courses in-house.
Yeah, just looking at their website here, very informative, very definitely they got the student athlete in mind.
Yes.
So we've talked about the dry land facilities. We've talked about the school facilities. Now, what an honor to be skating on the same ice as some of these Olympians. What is the first reaction of some of the players to be able to walk out onto that ice? Do they feel like they're an Olympian as well?
It is a pretty neat feeling when you walk down the corridor. The picture that's on the screen right now, if you were to go right or across the arena underneath the doors, is the corridor, which is actually Hockey Canada's corridor. So the Hockey Canada Olympic room is there. Their video session room is right there. They have their own weight training facility. So it is a pretty neat experience for these kids to just kind of be there. But the other thing that really the kids get a bigger kick out of is when a lot of NHL teams come into Calgary to play the Flames, that they use our facilities for their pregame skates. They don't use the Saddle Dome.
Darcy, hang on one sec. We got to take another quick commercial break, and let's talk about that when we come back, because I know you have a story that you want to share with the group. We'll be right back, guys, after these commercial breaks. Welcome back, everyone. We got Darcy here, the general manager of the International Hockey Academy. We wanted to sit down with him today just to discuss things that have been happening with IHA, his role. And before we break for commercial, I had to stop him because I know he's got a story about one of the teams that, and I don't know if everybody does know this, Darcy, but a lot of the NHL teams do use Winsport for their training facilities before a game against the Calgary Flames here in Calgary, Alberta. So go ahead. I won't interrupt because this story is funny. So go on.
Well, we again, at any given time, obviously the Calgary Flames use the facility a lot. But you will see people like Sidney Crosby walking around the facility, or the Pittsburgh Penguins, or we did have one of our former players actually up in the common area at the cafeteria walk up to Alex Ovechkin and make him buy him a coffee, just so that they could, say they had Alex buy him a coffee. So, and Alex was very, 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 he obliged, bought the coffee. Some photos were taken, but what really kind of set that off is at the time we did have two Russians and two from Kazakhstan in the program. So when they kind of walked up a little hesitant to approach him, one of our more inclined youth had no cares about walking up to him and saying, "Hey, Alex, how you doing? Buy me a coffee." And he did. But they started speaking Russian from, a distance, 10, 20 feet back. And all of a sudden that really perked up Alex's ears, like, "Hey, well, why are there extra, Eastern Europeans walking around this facility?" So it is pretty neat. The kids get a good kick out of it. They've had autographs and pictures taken with Pittsburgh and Vancouver and Boston and Calgary. And so, yeah, it's a neat little treat for the boys. And of course, when that happens, the school will actually let the guys leave to go watch. Yeah, they will. They'll let them go watch a practice, or they'll let them quickly go and take an extra, 10 minutes of one class, 10 minutes of another class to go get some photos and autographs and things like that. So it is a pretty neat facility to be in, because you just never know who is going to be walking around there. We've actually had one of our past players get picked up for an Alberta Junior League hockey team, just simply because the coach was in talking to Hockey Canada and watched one of our U18 prep practices. And he was just having one of those practices, working his butt off. And the coach just said, "Who's that?" Came down to the ice surface, talked to the U18 prep coach at the time. And 2 days later, he had his LOI signed in the Alberta Junior Hockey League.
Wow. So there are some advantages to hanging out at Winsport, I guess, eh?
Yes.
Yeah. So here on our screen, I just wanted to show what the program is, the discovery and the investment. Let's not talk numbers today, Darce, because
they are what they are.
So obviously you guys have taken some, you all have a lot of knowledge. Obviously your staff have a lot of knowledge, so you guys run a well-rounded program. Could you briefly just speak about the on-ice program itself with our viewers of what an average practice would look like for the boys?
Well, the nice thing about an academy system is you're practicing 4 to 5 times a week. You're not practicing 2 or 3 times a week where everybody is so concerned about their power play and their power play breakout and their, how they're going to run their umbrella or whatever their plan is, right? When you get to practice 4 to 5 times a week, you really get to put a very, very strong emphasis on individual skill development. So we'll practice 2 to 3 times a week of just individual skill stuff. So it'll be a lot of one-on-one stuff, a lot of quick release stuff, work, a lot of skating. We'll bring in power skaters, or we'll run power skating practices, things like that. And then, yes, there is time put aside for your team play. We can't, neglect that. But one thing that we make very clear to a lot of our parents is if you don't have the individual skill sets, it's kind of impossible to do anything else.
Very
And
true.
as a scout myself in the Alberta Junior League, when I walk into an arena to watch a player or two players, that's exactly what I'm watching. I'm not watching 20. I'm there to watch one or two, get my report. Now, if somebody stands out, that's just a welcome surprise. But otherwise, I'm in there to watch one or two. And yes, I'm being very critical of their speed, of their heads up. What are they doing away from the puck? Things like that. Because at the next level, it is just that much faster than the level that they're at. So it's if they don't have the individual skill set, then unfortunately, you might be a great team guy, but you still have to play. You still have to be able to skate the game. You still have to play the game. And so there is a big element of individual skill work put into our programs, as well as our teamwork.
Now, one thing that I think is important to point out to our viewers is there are choices. There's choices out there. Definitely, you guys run your program differently than maybe another CSSHL school, but there is that fundamental there that there is the dry land component, there is the on ice component, and the very important school component.
Yeah.
So as a parent, you got it, like you were saying, make sure you do your research, and you gotta talk to your sources. So definitely give you a call, Darcy, and find out what you guys are looking for the program.
For sure.
The other thing, Darcy, that I would like to touch on is the also very important billet family. Now, these poor billets this season have probably been banging their heads against the wall because they were probably expecting the students to take off every couple of days. How important is it for you guys to have your billet families in your program? Like, obviously, because you have the facility, there's no dorms there. So what is it like reaching out to billet families? Could you touch on that?
As a program that has, this year we were a little bit different. This year a lot of our kids are local homegrown kids. So billets weren't, but we still have, I believe, 5 or 6 boys that are billeting. Historically, when we've been bringing in international students, we could have upwards of 12 to 14 kids billeting in the program. So billets for our particular program are very large. Ideally, we try to get them to stay with teammates. One, it's a comfortability factor. It's easier on the program that we don't have to really be concerned about their transportation and their well-being because they're with another teammate. But we do have a group of families that have billeted in the past that are non-hockey families. They're honestly not hockey. And we keep in touch with them. And I look back, I was fortunate, unfortunate, I never really had to have a billet when I was playing back in the day. But I know I talked to a lot of people, some parents that are in our program that were big billets. And, 30 years since playing junior hockey, they still, when they are in the town of their billet family, will stop in and visit them. We'll take them out to supper. You really become a second family. I have seen some of our international students not go home at their 2-3 week Christmas break, stay with their billet family and do the billet family Christmas instead of their own family Christmas. And that's in the end what the billet family really is. It's not just we truly encourage our players to become a member of the family. We truly encourage our billet houses to welcome the child and not just give them a bed and 3 meals a day. To actually take them in, to force them to go watch the young ones hockey, ringette, gymnastics, dance, fencing, whatever the family does, to become a member of it. And the ones that have truly bought into it, it's lifelong memories. It's like they have a second family to lean on throughout whatever. And we have seen when this COVID started and there was the lockdowns and travel was limited, some of our internationals from last year, they didn't go home for like 2 months because they wanted to finish schooling. And the billet families were 100% welcoming of all of it. So
Nice.
the billet family plays such a huge role in all amateur sports where you have kids coming in from outside. Of course, I will pump the whole hockey world because it's the world we're in, but let's not kid ourselves. If you're a high-level athlete of any sport, you have to travel from rural Alberta or interprovincial or international, you need the billets. You really need the billets. And it does take a certain family to take in the billets as well. So everybody's vetted, the criminal record checks and everything like that. It's all put in place. But yeah, our billet families are very, very big to our program. And without them, a lot of programs would struggle.
I think the emphasis is on everyone. The CSSHL, obviously, with as many teams as they have, there are quite a few families that open their doors to all of these players, not just IHA. So
no, that's right.
It's and you even open your doors to players, which is awesome. Darcy, we got to take another commercial break, buddy. So stick right there. We'll be right back with more with Darcy and IHA. No one leave. Everybody stay right there. We'll be right back. And we're back.
Amateur sports.
Did anybody go anywhere? Darce, did you go anywhere?
I did not. No, I knew it was a short commercial, so I had to stay.
Yeah, I stayed okay, too.
Perfect.
Darce, I just want to show everybody your website. It's coming along quite well. It's quite lovely. I love the fact that you guys got right down to the nitty gritty with it. The one thing that I think we should let our viewers know, Darcy, is a typical schedule for these boys. You guys run two programs, the U18 and U17. Both are very important in the CSSHL that do involve a lot of travel. So if I'm looking at your school, your academy, what would I be looking at for my son for travel? Where would he be going? Oh, hello, honey. How are you?
Say hi, honey. You're on live internet camera.
Oh goodness, hi.
So, Darcy, what would a typical weekend or week or month look like for these young athletes? Because obviously, and one thing that I apologize we didn't touch on, the majority of these CSSHL schools are preparing these young athletes for the future of junior hockey, WHL, OHL, American hockey, in some cases the NHL. So what is it like? Where do they travel? What do they do? How many days are they on the road?
Sand your storm camera. It's on a typical year when we're not locked down, obviously. We will play upwards of 50 to 60 games. We will travel. We used to take an international, like an overseas trip. Now we're locked into just the kind of North American trips. We'll enter some of the CCM showcases. We've done a really good job over the last 2 years of really honing in on where we go and why we go, as opposed to just saying, let's go to Anaheim and play in this tournament because, well, it's Anaheim in February, so it's a great place to go.
Hey,
exactly.
Right.
The hockey is very suspect. So yeah, if you're looking, if you're looking for a huge morale boost, it's worth it. Are those kids going to get any exposure? Anybody watching? No. So it doesn't make sense for us nowadays when the investment is what the investment is for parents, to not give the kids the best atmosphere and the best exposure that we can. So we will make sure that we enter into the highest level tournaments as we physically can and ensure that they are attended by scouts from every league, not just at the very basics of this. Our league exposes our kids to all 4 Western provinces.
Oh, yeah.
So you can play in the BC Major Midget League, you can play in the Alberta Major Midget League, you can play in the Saskatchewan League or Manitoba. And for most part, unless they're kind of coming into the max tournament, their exposure from Saskatchewan, Manitoba to the BC teams is very minimal. Same with a BC kid trying to get out into Alberta or Saskatchewan, it's minimal. Whereas with the CSSHL, it's maximum exposure to all 4 junior leagues as well as the WHL. So now it's like, what's our best opportunity? Well, there's still more teams than there are junior teams. So now how do we get our kids exposure to other junior leagues? We go out into the Ontarios and the Quebecs. We go out into the Michigans and the Minnesotas and the Texas, where the NOL or the USHL, and those leagues will be there watching and scouting kids. So we try to expose our kids the best we can across North America, not just play games for the sake of saying, okay, well, I said we're going to play 50 games, so I better go find 50 games. So we try our best to be selective at that. And we're one of the fewer teams in our league, surprisingly, that travel to tournaments. A lot of our league plays just our 30, 36 league games and playoffs, and that's all we do.
Wow.
They don't do a lot of extra, tournaments or travels. So one thing that our owner has made a fairly important part of our program is that we do get some exposure outside of just our league and give the kids that experience.
I think that's a good point to hit on, the experience that the kids get playing internationally. Getting to travel, getting to see what it's like being on the road. Being treated like young men, dressing up suit and tie and heading out there. It's quite a thing for them, being 14, 15, 16, 17, even 18, 19 years old, just to experience that and go, whoa. So
it is kind of fun when we do our first, airline adventure, and you can see the moms and dads kind of hanging around the airport, like, how do we do this? And we're like, drop and go, Mom, drop and go. Dad, leave them. We got them. And it's good. You're right. It's a learning experience. It's not just about the hockey. It's about life. I mean, these kids are learning how to maintain their passports and not lose them, and how to interact with security guards and not say the funny things that they think they should say for the laugh. It gives them another sense of adulthood. And I know we're like, oh, let them be kids. They're 100% their kids. But one thing about being a kid is learning life. And one of the things that we try to do is get these kids to understand what life is, what's coming up next. And it doesn't matter if you're going to be a pro hockey player or a mechanic or any job that you're going to have in the future. There's protocols and about life. And I would like to think we try our best to show them that. And I mean, so we go to New Jersey last year with our U18s and great tournament, lots of exposure. Actually, one of our kids was invited back to a null camp there. Unfortunately, things got shut down, so he couldn't go. But we run him across to New York. So we're in Times Square, and the kids were having on, and it was amazing the amount of sentiments I received from the parents going, wow, like, how did you manage with 19 of them? I'm going, because they're good kids.
Yeah.
You tell them the parameters, and they're just as scared as getting lost in New York City as I am. So they're like, oh, we're going to stay together. And, we rode the subway, and that, again, some people are like, oh my God, you went on the subway? Yeah, we did. Why not? The kids wanted to. We're as a big group. But again, they all learned. They learned how to talk to to, they're buying all their own trinkets. They're buying all their own, souvenirs, and they had to learn how to deal with that, deal with their money. So it was those types of trips are again, how many people are ever going to get back to New York City? Hopefully all of them, but realistically, probably 4 or 5 of them will ever get back to New York City again.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's about, again, even though we were there for a reason, and the boys played very well that weekend. It was a very good showcase weekend for the team. We also have to understand they are 14, 15, 16 years old, and they need to have a life as well. There's very few. I mean, I'm fortunate right now. I know because of my 2 boys, I know a lot of kids that are playing NCAA, that are playing semi-pro, that are playing in the NHL, and you're kind of kidding yourself if you don't think that a lot of those kids didn't have a life as well as hockey. Did they work their butts off? Yes, they did, but they also had lives. They were also, wakeboarders and skiers and things like that. They may not have played another sport to its infinity, but they did live. So, and like I say, we all know, I've already got a few of my oldest boys' friends that are done hockey, right? The pro contracts are up. They're playing in Europe, and even that, they're sitting there kind of going, all right, time to come back. This is coming to an end as well. So time to come back and get back to life. So,
Do you want to hear a funny story?
Please do.
I can't. Have you met my daughter? I think you have.
I haven't met her yet. No,
but
I haven't met her.
We spoke about it.
Yes.
So she, on her way back from Ontario for this Christmas break, you spoke about passports. Well, guess what she did?
Forgot it on the plane?
No, lost it.
Lost it altogether.
Yeah, lost it altogether.
Nice.
And we've been looking for it since she got back, and now we've just come to the realization that it's gone. It's and she's 16, so I can imagine how it's like traveling with. Well, what's even funnier is the kid managed to keep her passport when she was with a CSSHL team that traveled to Washington, D.C. and made it back, no problem, and was able to hand me back her passport. But this time, lost her passport.
I wouldn't say we haven't had some trials and tribulations on our trips.
Well,
but yeah, we've been stopped at the border crossing, like on our bus. And a couple years back, one of our boys, I don't know, it turned out it was buried in his hockey bag.
Oh.
I don't know why you'd ever put your passport in your hockey bag, but again, knowing how to, because they pulled him off the bus, and he was actually one of our international students.
Oh,
so
boy.
he can't travel as a 16-year-old with just a driver's license across Canada.
Yeah.
And we were from the States into Canada, and so it was we had to stop, but it was a learning lesson, right? He had to sit there with security to kind of go, but I'm not a bad guy. What do I do? And so and the coaches, we get off with them and we make the phone calls and find out where his copy is. And obviously, when you're traveling as a nice big group, security's a little bit more, we get it, but still we're doing our job. We need this piece. And a couple phone calls later and things are cleared up and we're good to go. But
I would have let him go into the slammer Darcy.
Yeah.
Experience the full effect of the Canadian Border Patrol.
We're hoping
buddy.
That life lesson.
Darcy, stick right there, bud. We got to take another commercial break, and we're going to ask you some of the tough questions that all as parents want to know. So we'll be right back, bud. So we've talked about program, talked about what's entailed into the program, talked about IHA, the coaching, the training off and on ice. Now let's get down to the fun stuff. What do you feed the kids before a game?
Before a game, thankfully, we have some nutritionists in the past that have done up a program with us. Depending on the time frame, it will primarily be something that can be digested pretty quickly for a quick energy. Post game, then we will look for more of the carb load, let it turn into its sugars overnight, and then the next day give them kind of that burst of energy. Obviously, your rooms are normally have some snacks. Your buses always have snacks to keep them hydrated. Me personally, we try to keep them away from the Powerades and the Gatorades and stuff until actual game time. I still haven't figured out why they need to replenish their so-called electrolytes when they're sitting on a bus for 10 hours, but for some reason they think they need that. One thing that we don't allow is energy drinks or caffeine drinks of heavy nature. We try to keep them to a fairly regimented scenario. At the end of the weekend, it's a free-for-all. A lot of times we'll pull into a mall food court and just say, get busy, boys. Just get busy. Get into your groups, pick a spot, all run around, pay for it all.
Oh boy.
We've also done things like we'll pull into a save on and say, here's your budget, go shopping. And that's normally when we're on our way home. And it's kind of funny when you watch the boys, they start pooling their money together, because then they can buy whole chickens and big bags of bread, and somebody buys the mustard and somebody buys the sliced pickles, and they put it all together, and then they have a great big sandwich feast they're actually, and it's, after a while, you can kind of tell most kids get it and want to get it. I remember one trip coming back from Saskatchewan. We were on the bus and we're getting close to Swift Current. We're ready to stop, and we're like, okay, guys, we can stop in at Boston Pizza and get some chicken and pasta, or McDonald's. What do you guys want? And 18 out of 19 said we're stopping at Boston Pizza.
That's a pretty good decision.
That's the same response I gave them. I'm like, really? Perfect. So we went in, we had chicken pasta and a salad, and got back on the bus. So most of these kids at this level are really good at treating their bodies right. And they're still teenagers. So to see a bag of Doritos on the bus isn't a shock, right? To see them come in, because apparently 38 grams of sugar in an iced tea is better than the 36 grams of sugar in a Coca-Cola, but in their mind, it's better. So, there's times that we put a kibosh on it, and then there's other times that we're like, yeah, we're done, guys. We've got 7 more days before we have to get you back into it.
So Darcy, tell us one of your most fonded memories of either being a coach or the GM with IHA, or even maybe when your son was playing. What's one of your fondest memories?
That's a tough one. There's been a lot. There really has been a lot. Even with obviously with my kids, I have missed some stuff that one thing I never really did a lot when my kids were playing was miss their stuff. I've missed other events. Like there's the world's longest hockey game that goes up in Sherwood Park, not the one in Chestermere, but the one up in Sherwood Park that's outdoors, which, by the way, I'm playing in this year. Anyways, and I missed the very first one, so I helped them set it up with Brent Sake and Jeff Toner, and then I helped them set it up, but it was my oldest's first ever bus trip to Fort McMurray, and I was the coach. So it's like, do I do this for cancer and the world record, or do I go to Fort McMurray as a coach? And so, of course, I go to Fort McMurray. But, yeah, I'm actually, as much as I yell, rant, and rave and come across as kind of the lunatic coach, End of seasons, I don't say anything in the dressing room after our last game. I walk out because I just can't. It's just one of those things that, you all of a sudden get 19, 20 more sons, and some you'll see, and a lot of them you'll never see again. I'm appreciative at the holiday season or on my birthday. I will get texts and calls from Kazakhstan and Sweden and Finland and Russia, and these are all kids that were in the program at some point in time. Even the parents saying, "Hey, coach, how you doing? Hope you're doing well. Thank you for the opportunity." And knowing I might not ever see these kids again, but it is pretty neat. It is pretty neat. So there's not really one huge moment. There's a lot of them.
Last question for you. It's probably going to be the toughest one for you to answer. Why should I choose IHA?
Oh, that is a tough question to answer. It really is. I would like to think the all-encompassing program, everything under the one roof, everything is easier for the kids. There's not a lot of movement during the day. I believe, I look at our coaching staffs are all heavily involved. We do have one thing that we have that a lot of schools don't seem to have, or at least, every school will have one or two scouts kind of in the area or on their payroll or something. We have 5 in our program. We have a player advisor on our program or in our program. One thing that unfortunately IHA has yet to do, especially in recent months at the high level, is be super, super competitive on the ice. We've been competitive on the ice, but we haven't been competitive enough, which is what we're trying to change. And with that being said, we still have some really strong success moving kids to the next level, even though we have not been a very competitive squad. So, we're working on becoming more and more competitive, but I think the fact that the amount of kids that we move on to the junior ranks from our program, being a non-competitive program, speaks volumes for the work that I do and that the other coaches in the program do to move our kids on to the next level. So in the end, we are truly trying to make everything about the kids and ensuring that their success is as great as physically possible.
Ladies and gentlemen, Darcy Hodge, the general manager of IHA. Thanks again, sir, for joining us today. Don't go anywhere.
Okay.
We really appreciate him coming on the show. One of our shows coming up, we'll be speaking with some other CSSHL schools just to get their feedback on what's been happening this season so far. We look forward to seeing you guys next week. Thanks for joining us. Have a good day.